welcome to a new episode of the Advancing Consciousness series with Franco Di Nicola. This is a place where people can come to gain further insight and clarity as to what is going on and how we can shift things on a personal and global level, while also accessing higher levels of consciousness and awareness. We bring this series to you free of charge so that many are able to access this information. And if you resonate with what Franco shares and you would like to support his work, contributions are welcomed and greatly appreciated. A link is in the description and will be provided in the chat if you feel guided to do so. Also, we have many previous workshops, such as the most recent, Actualizing Beyond Your Current State to Live Your New Reality, along with our membership program, Let's Talk About You, where like-minded people come together bi-weekly to talk about the topics requiring deeper understanding and clarity. All of these are available on Teachable, and we encourage you to check them out as they are great resources at very affordable prices to assist in better understanding this human experience. The Teachable link will also be provided in the chat and description. And lastly, don't forget to share. As more of us are coming together and creating a shift in oneself, the more effective it will be to shift things globally. Thank you for joining us and being part of this change. Enjoy today's broadcast.
Welcome everybody to another episode of Advancing Consciousness series. Today we get to play with episode 90. And here we are. These episodes keep growing and giving you such a huge archive of information, stimulation of sorts to kind of awaken, to assist you to connect more powerfully, and to also provide you any confirmations you require within your own knowing to what is playing out. Many of us started off knowing kind of before even entering here how to play the game, and that was through the body, through the human entity, and also our multidimensional soul, and known how to play the game. But at the same time, as we chose to come here, we chose to isolate part of that, or a good chunk of it, so that you can have more of a human experience. But of course, through the journey of this life, guess what ends up happening? We get programmed, conditioned, and shaped in such a fashion where we take that whole pocket of access and we put it aside. And now what you're doing is reactivating that access, that knowing, that so-called connection to yourself. And it is a connection to yourself that is very expansive. It is the connection to yourself, to your highest self, to the highest level of your human entity and your innate consciousness of the body, which is also the innate consciousness of Gaia and all sentient beings on the planet. And this is what you are doing right now. So what I would suggest at time to time to kind of go through, especially if you're on YouTube, but even if you're on Facebook, we do have on the YouTube channel Advancing Consciousness series. If you're watching on YouTube, you're already on there, but you can now go in there, click your videos, and you'll be able to see all the videos from start till now. And all of them have different titles and resources and so forth. If you're on Facebook and you want to relate with the Facebook, we have the Facebook group called Advancing Consciousness Series. That is an actual group. And in there, we just post basically all of these episodes that we do and some other extras from some of the shows we've done. And this is also applies on YouTube. Now, we don't put regular postings on there, but we do put in any videos that we provide, because even when I'm doing shows on zoology with Todd, or Tales of the Ship, or any other resource, because I've done many other shows, there's always powerful content there that kind of triggers a deeper remembering for yourself. And that's what's really playing out at this moment. So use these resources, because we have a tendency to kind of get lost in the journey, having things getting kind of, how can I say it, intense to the point where we kind of disconnect, because what ends up happening is the ego starts to react. The ego reacts, starts using all your stories, programs, belief systems, but also the stuff that has been in one way or another, kind of conditioned and programmed as a response. And then what happens is, like some people say, sometimes when you're in survival, flight and fight mode, all reasoning, all access to higher aspects go out the window, sort of thing. But right now, so that's what a lot of these resources will help to bring you back into perspective. Because I've had many people write to me at different times saying that, listen, when I connect with the content and so forth, it brings me back to an inner grounding. It reminds me that there's more than the game we're seeing, the movie we're seeing around us, and all the interactions that's going on. And there is a heck of a lot of interactions, a lot of different layers and depth of this movie. And the depth will depend on your state of consciousness. What is your reference point? If you're referring to the outside world as the only source, guess what? You're going to be deep in it, and you're only going to see what's going on. You're going to be in the depth of polarity, right, wrong, good, bad, light, dark, and all of that stuff, victim, victimizer, and all of those roles and games that are playing out. And then, of course, the amount of fear that's being projected, that you internalize that fear and you start responding with that fear. And so when you're in that depth, yeah, you're going to be in the depth of the game, and the game is really runs you fully. Everything is a great experience. Everything gets to a point, it serves you, but you get to a point where it no longer serves, or it's time to really step things up. And that's what many of us have been feeling. Many of us have started to pull ourselves from the movie. We're backing off from the movie, or basically the world we're seeing around us, what we call a certain level of reality. The more you step back, the less impact, the less drive all of those things play in your life. So by stepping back, you are also doing one other thing that's really important for you to remember, is that as you step back from the movie, you're stepping more into you. And we're not talking just the physical part, but the consciousness part, the part that knows itself as the role player, the one that is contributing to the projection of what we see in reality at this point in time. So a lot of people talk about change and so forth. So today's topic, we're looking at accessing the source point within us to change reality. And of course, we're going to be doing a process on that to kind of do it together. And we're gonna do that together in two levels, and I'll get a little bit more elaborate once we get to that point. But right now, we're going to set the stage. So let's set the stage at this very pinnacle point. Now, to understand how things work, many of us have bought into the idea, concepts, and so forth, that the game around us is there, what we have to play with. And that, in fact, for us to step out of that, something around us has to change before we can shift our reality. How we can shift our so-called layers of collective reality, meaning the reality within your community, family dynamics, and the larger scale, what we can call the community of the collective period of all humans on the playground at this point in time. So when we're looking at that, we seem to feel that in some way we have to do something of some sort, or the proper people have to step in and grab the bull by the horn, as they say, and to take an active role to change the systems, to wipe out all the negative role players, and to bring in positive role players. And that then the reality starts to change. Then you can start being yourself. Then you can start associating with a better quality of life. That is kind of the illusionary part that we have adopted, and that was cool for a period of experience. But we're coming to the realization, and what we have to stimulate, that we are actually the ones shaping the reality. Now, Yes, there are different role players that are playing specific roles to kind of convince us that the game is one way or another, and somehow by convincing us or playing their active role, we adopt it, and then we're the ones that actually respond, react, and whatever else to support that world or that level of reality. This is why there's so much emphasis, so much resources put into playing the game in such a fashion. Because what ends up happening by doing so, when this is taking place, in doing so, what ends up happening is that we contribute, all of us as projectors start to align and support a particular reality. And of course, you notice the realities will vary. Well, of course, we have a collective reality, which is the big screen that we see every part of the human nature, but we only see little bits and pieces. We think we see the whole thing, but we don't. But the other levels of reality, wherever you are, in whatever country you're in, whatever, portion of the country, and then, going down to your communities and so forth. And you will notice that are different ways to create realities. Now, there is a baseline, of course, but there are different realities in different countries, and you can see it. And those realities are also categorized by genders and so forth. So it depends on where you go play and what segment of the country or what country you go play in, you will notice, and what are other connections, affiliations that we may have, religious or otherwise, we will notice that the game is played somewhat different. We still have the base, but some of it is different. But at the same time, how does it become different? Why is that reality different than this reality, and vice versa? Well, the thing is, it's all to do with the programming and conditioning. And this is why I'm saying you have to look at the programming condition, the adopted ideas, so that we can reverse all of that, clear it all out, so that you can actually now unpack that new world in you. So the thing is, we're always going back to you being the source essence of it. So let's quickly shift this over. All right. Okay. I think we got it there. I don't know what that's all about. Oops. Nope. They updated the software, of course, and there we go. All right. But I'm going to quickly throw in one of my squibby things on there so I can scribble. No. Okay, cool. I have to. They just did another upgrade today, I guess, because when I turned it on, it said, "Oh, it's doing an upgrade," and of course they changed a few things, and a few other things come to. Anyways, let's look at. So accessing the source point within us to change reality. So there's two ways to do this. We can look at it and say, okay, we change our reality by changing what we see. And some people call it in the mirror or on the screen, or we change what we project and see. Because many of us, depending on, if you look at it, let me give you an example. You can be in your own family dynamic, intimate family dynamic, with a partner, with siblings or kids or anything of that nature. And you can also be within the extended family where you're now looking into, cousins, uncles, aunts, whatever, and also parents if they're not living with you, and so forth, and all of the different relationships and combinations. Now, you will notice that each person has their own viewpoint of how life is played out, and they create a layer of their own personal reality. Now, they may uphold, and many of you have coming to that realization that they're upholding a certain way of life, could be traditions, could be whatever. You may have gone through the stage where you have changed and you no longer take that as your reference point and supporting that particular reality. Now, I know some of you will enter that cluster at times, going to visit your family, and you kind of step into the old role. Now, you can go 100%, you can go partially, 50% or less, or whatever. It fluctuates. But as you become more aware, as you go into a deeper state of your own beingness, you will notice that you become less and less subject or less and less involved in playing the roles that you used to play or what is upheld by other individuals in that family dynamics. By realizing that, you can start seeing that it's not only there, it's everywhere, even with a partner. So the point here is that you are the one that starts to interpret, starts to shape, starts to make certain choices that can be very different from the extended family, can start being very different from your immediate family, partnerships, or whatever it is. But the reason that's shifting, the reason that you're going into that, because you're now connecting more and more in yourself. You're becoming more discerned to what feels within you, what you feel within yourself to kind of project in your own particular reality, how you respond, how you think, how you feel, or anything of that nature. That's kind of all part and parcel, but you start to change your viewpoint, your focus of all the different things that are playing out starts to change very differently. So many of the things that you may have had fear with, many of the things that you felt that you were kind of all bound up and you could not change in your life, you will notice as your consciousness expands, as your awareness of who you are, what you're capable of, and how things come together, you will notice that things start to shift. Your focus shifts, and you start to now create a reality that is more matching and eventually fully matching you. The you that is. Now, of course, you're not stagnant either. So, in fact, it's not like I've achieved who I am and I'm now fully grounded in my meanness, being me, but you're now also noticing that you're moving and changing all the time, because what's happening is that we're upgrading ourselves. So, all parts is in complete expansion, movement, and so forth without any of that stagnation. Now, sometimes we feel and we can get engaged in the stagnation, but usually the energies and everything else that's coming in is really going to jolt you in a big way. So it's going to be really, really hard to kind of hang on to dear life, to the old version of you and all the other stuff. So what does it mean to access the source point to change your reality? We are the source point. And the accessing is reactivating more consciously, more aware that you are that source point. And the source point is within you. It's not outside of you. It's not into another realm, dimension, or anything of that nature. It's not in the hands of anybody else. It's not in the hands of the collective. Because everything is optional, what you do and don't do. You're the one that actually agrees or doesn't agree with anything. But the thing is, when we're going through a transition, you may flip-flop for a little while. But you're going to notice that you're going to get more rock solid. And you start to realize, and this is what many of you are doing, starting to realize that that source point is within you. And it's there for you to be accessed. Now, all of us has access. All of us. It's not outside of us, and it's not like for the privileged or the ones that have a specialty in whatever is going on. The range and difference of who can access what is what, each person is in the stage of, and what's involved and what roles they have chosen to play on on their personal playground, but also with all the other people that are interacting. Because there are many of us and people, and I say us, but people in our playground that are really have to make a choice to kind of play a particular role, not so much for themselves on a personal level, but more to kind of facilitate who they play with and collective. Then there's others that have, really want to take an active role in changing their reality and accessing. And so it's about them and then them sharing with others to kind of trigger everybody else at this point in time. Because the thing is, everything, even including what we're doing today, is just really triggering and accessing within yourself what you already know and been feeling. Some of you have been feeling it much more powerful than ever before, and many of you are feeling it that in one way or another, you cannot ignore it any longer. And that's the thing. We talk about getting your ass kicked or whatever else with all of this stuff, that we need to move forward. But the thing is, the nudging is within you. You are becoming lit up. Every part of you is changing in such a fashion that you cannot ignore it any longer. You're going to see it in your dream state. You're going to see it in all of the different alignments. You're going to see it through other focuses that you're going to have, meaning that you're going to start putting attention in certain things. You're also going to notice things that you may have liked before, loved before, or anything of that nature starts to lose its appeal, and in some cases come to the point where you can no longer interact with that any longer. And then this has started some time ago, but it just keeps ramping up more and more. So many of us right now are looking at the world, looking at our lives, looking at all the stuff that's being imposed. There's much in the restriction world, much of boxes upon boxes, feeling that in some way we have to get our permission and right from other aspects of us, playmates of us. So you can't demonize it. They're just playing their role to give us permission to do things. So in fact, the illusion created that you no longer have free will, or it's a very limited free will, and the only way you can have your free will, your sovereignty, is if you follow some rules. But that is not pure free will or sovereignty when you're following other rules. Now, you have the freedom to choose to follow the rules, but you also realize that you don't have to, and you can change it at any time, and many of us are coming to that point. Now, yes, it looks like a shift show, like Todd likes to call it, a shifting of whatever's going on here, and there's other words you can plug in there, but we'll keep this rated G, for general. But at the same time, what we're looking at, with everything playing out at the moment and everything that is being projected to the degree, the chaoticness, the intensities, and the restrictions are going further and further. Now, of course, many more people are stepping up and saying, hey, wait a minute here. Why are we giving power to these role players? And they may not call it quite that, but these role players, these leaders or whatever, and they dictate. Now, many will just choose to go down that path and choose to follow whatever it is. But the thing is that following is still part of the role, because by them following, they have agreed to do so to kind of stimulate and awaken others, because when they see that, then they see that, oh, okay, it doesn't matter what anybody else is going through. Without judgment, you're going to say, well, that does not match with me, and I'm not going to make that choice. Now, of course, there's going to be some that are going to get involved in that and may have very intense symptomatic or very intense experiences to, again, stimulate us to awaken even further, and they may have exit points that open up, and they may choose to do that. I mean, exit points is no new reference or point, but at the same time, the reference point may be focused on some other level of seeing how the game is played. But so to understand everything that's going on right now is to really get an appreciation that, yeah, we're just playing out and purging and all of that stuff, but really intensifying the old inverted world. And if you're talking about inverted world as a reference point, right now, the inverted world is on spotlights. It's on steroids. It is really being accentuated in a powerful way that you can't even miss. It's everywhere to the polarity part of the Veed and non-Veed and this and that, who's doing what, who's doing that, who's resisting, who's complying, whatever. All of that is much accentuated. And in fact, the removal, what looks like that's an illusion again, the removal of your free will sovereignty is again also maximized and brought up to the next level so that we finally get the message on a larger scale. We are no longer supporting this so that we can move on. It is really for us to move on. It's not for us to get caught up in it. And yes, we can dive into it, get caught up into it, have various experiences or whatever you may want to call it. But at the same time, to truly understand that it is collectively assisting us to really step things up. So when I say accessing that source point is really connecting with ourselves, connecting with the part of us that is within us. It is that multidimensional part, our elevated, expanded, evolved to, everything is always constantly evolving, human entity and your innateness of your body, but also what everything that nature is sharing with us. Well, a lot of people like to call it nature because we're all part of nature. We're experiencing ourselves in nature. And when we're even talking about the organic matrix, which is part and parcel of that, also assists us in supporting that part of ourselves that we are. So accessing that within us, by doing so, then you go into driver's seat of sorts, but you become an active projector that is not supporting something that you've been programmed, conditioned, and belief or adopted as a belief system, but from a pure state of who you are, a pure state of your own consciousness, a pure state of your offering of what you've come here to do. And that's always expanding and growing anyways, but at the same time, you're now tapping into that. So in fact, you're no longer looking at the external world to shape your life. You are shaping your life. You're shaping the external world. And it's not by force, by just starting to live it, breathe it, feel it, do all of that part of the experience. And we'll go a little more in depth in all of that. So we can say, well, if we are looking at the old movie, the old world, then our reality will change much less. And it's governed by the collective of sorts. And those are different levels of collective. So to make progressive change, it is really depending to connect with yourself. Now, of course, we see the world as it is, and you're looking at it and say, well, I do not, or feeling very disempowered and feeling that I do not have power or capacities or capabilities to change any part of it. But the beauty of it, which we'll talk about briefly after, is that that power within yourself is very, very, how can I say it? I don't want to use the same word again, powerful, but it is very accessible to the degree that it actually is what changes your reality, because all of us have our own realities. And even though there's a blending within it that looks like we have other aspects of ourselves playing with ourselves, we're still very much in that reality. So we are on a separate channel of sorts, which actually interlaces with other channels. Go ahead, Kimberly.
Just asking, what is the possibility of advancing consciousness being part of the storyline movie narrative? I guess like everything else.
Of advancing consciousness?
What you're, I guess, talking about, that's
Right.
all it says. So what is the possibility of advancing consciousness being part of the storyline movie narrative?
Well, it is. It is. It is a construct that we've made together to kind of stimulate and so forth. These words would not even be used, advancing consciousness, because it will be automatic once you're there. Right now, it's nudging, and it's kind of giving you a reference point. It's assisting. So we're basically shifting the storyline until there is no story. where you're just basically you experiencing every part of it. You is no longer separate, dependent, or anything of that nature in whatever you're playing in your playground. You're totally navigating, totally driving, you're totally projecting and creating every part of it. And I know some people say, well, everything is created, but that's not true, because all of the projected creations that have existed were at different states of consciousness. We have to understand you are advancing in your consciousness. The different collectives are advancing in consciousness. Our solar system is advancing in consciousness. And we're talking about our galaxy and universe and so forth, and even sourceness, which is the very core of ourselves, is advancing in consciousness. What does that consciousness mean? Self-awareness, and also within that self-awareness, we're able to access our true nature, which is the designer of playgrounds, designer of experiences, designers of whatever we choose to experience. And that's what we're doing right now. So, yeah, are we going from one storyline to another? In a way, yes. But that is only a bridging to remind us to kind of create a shift within ourselves, which is just really to remind you to make your own shift so that now, because do we need to refer to the fact that we're advancing in consciousness? Even going into fourth, third, and fifth dimension or sixth dimensional consciousness, what is consciousness? Consciousness is self awareness, different levels of self awareness, different access points of how we create what we can call realities. So that's what we're shifting. We have shifted from the inverted 3D and 2D level of consciousness where everything worked backwards to what we call organic 3D and organic 5D, and beyond, which is just other access points at this point in time. So we have consciousness, dimensional consciousness, and again, dimensional consciousness is accessibility of yourself and what we can call overall source consciousness. But how you apply it on any playground in any physical form will differ. So you can say, you could take fifth dimensional consciousness state of reference point, and if you're going to go to another planet in a different physicality, it's going to be expressed and experienced very differently than what is being experienced and played out here. Because the fact is, consciousness is self-awareness, self-discovery, but where you go play, where you utilize it, or put it to use, is going to make a difference. Because again, you come and play on planet Earth, there's a lot of different things that are very different from every other planet. You're in a human body, or in this case, holographic projection, or what do they call avatar, or whatever it is. You have to understand that what we can do and how we do it and everything else is very different, and the response that we get and the feedback that we get is very different than any other physicalities. When you're getting into also the densities, when you're changing the densities, density is the reference point of how you have what looks like matter, which is not, how it moves and how it shapes and how much realism there is. So as you go into the higher densities, it feels lighter and lighter and lighter and less realistic. So it becomes more of a dream state where you can have experiences. It can change a lot faster, but at the same time, it doesn't have the same hooks and heaviness of what we've experienced here. Is that supreme? Well, at some point or another, it's going to be beneficial, and at some point or another, we may choose to do that. And right now, we have shifted into a fourth density, and that makes it easier for all of the stuff that's going on right now. And of course, we went into a higher dimensional consciousness. So the storyline will vanish as we get more online. So you will notice that a storyline is necessary to a certain degree at this point, but what we're doing is upgrading the storyline. So it's like reading a book, and you're going to really integrate with the book, but then once you're done with that, you're going to move into a different book, and it's got a whole different life stream, a different story, or whatever it is, and that's the story you're unpacking. But the difference is now you're unpacking you and your own personal projection of your story, which merges with all the other playmates that are on the planet right now. So that's how that part works. Okay, So if you want to change reality that matches most with you, that matches you, then you now have to project from within rather than using the reference external. Now, that doesn't mean that you do not see what's in the external, what's projected on the screen. You can see it, but you do not get caught up in the idea that that is all you have. Yes, that is what you're currently observing, but as you unpack you, as you tap more into that within sourceness, you will notice that the screen, the movie, whatever you're looking at as the whole starts to change. It's the same way that you can sit down and watch a movie. Depending on your awareness, consciousness, experience, the movie will have. So you could watch a movie, say, a decade ago, or even several years ago, or even a year ago, and it did create various experiences, emotionally and otherwise. But now you may go watch it, and the movie doesn't have the same impact. The movie is very different because you're very different. So the thing is, it doesn't matter what you're looking at. You are interpreting it very different. You have a different focus point, and it may not be interesting to watch that movie any longer, and may have been part of your life for a period of time. Some people have watched movies many, many, many times. All right. Changing reality without using the old, slow method that promotes and uses energies of polarity and struggle. Okay? We've been all accustomed to make changes in our life the old way, the old world way, where it takes a lot of effort. You got to work on yourself very powerfully. You have to now work not only with yourself, but you now have to go into the game and play the game to a certain level so that you can now get a good section of the game or a good part of the movie and do it that way. Or the fact that we have to still play in that whole polarity, good, bad, right, wrong, victim, victimizer, and then now you have to make things right because you give realism to one side of the polarity versus the other. And that is the old way to do it. So, but it's also the slow method, as you've noticed, because in this case, the changes are not as quick and powerful. You will notice when people come together and do whatever, they're making a statement, but it takes certain sequence. How about if we are able to get in there and start to re-encode it by just applying ourselves without using on any of that? So as much as we're seeing that using those energies promote polarity and struggle, sacrifice creates sacrifice creates struggle, creates suffering, creates effort, and we have to be focused. We got to go against ourselves, and we have to recondition ourselves, and we have to do all of this. We have to kind of go through all of that reprogramming ourselves. See, the thing is, we're not here to reprogram ourselves. We are here to deprogram ourselves and let our natural operating system to come up to the surface in its upgraded version. So it's not about reprogramming how to play the game. It's deprogramming yourself from the game, and then from that true state, you now shape the game according to you. It's not outside of you. So changing it without using the old method that promotes all of that, you will notice that it will be much more efficient and a lot quicker, and it does not have to have a tremendous heavy-duty process and what we call time and everything else. So you may have been led to believe that change is outside of our hands. We've all been there. And many of us may be still in the thick of it. That change is outside of our hands. That somehow the only way it's going to change if the world changes. The only way it changes if our relationship changes, if our job changes, our siblings changes, our family changes, whatever changes, our friendship, the world, basically, the media changes, the leadership changes, and all of that. So we've all adopted that, and that was great, a part of the experience. So it's out of our hands, occurs over time, and under considerable effort. It takes a lot of effort to make any form of change. So we may have been led to believe that, and that was good to have that experience. But now we're realizing without judgment, and that's the key here, that, yeah, that was a cool ride. That was a cool experience, but what am I going to do with it now? Do I still need to hold on to those ideas, those beliefs, those concepts, those so called patterns? Do I or not? So the thing is, once you let go of that, it doesn't take as much time because it moves very quickly, and it's not under considerable effort. It doesn't have to be effortful. It doesn't have to be painful if we are using the change method from within. Because what's within is super efficient. What's in within, you're going to the source codes. You're going into the actual projector and changing part of what is projecting through the film screen before it gets onto the big screen or gets onto the worldscape, or what we call a collective reality. So that's the thing. So we may have led that, but right now the question you have to ask yourself, how much of that is still of value to you to kind of support that? That's a question only you can answer. Now, if you're going to answer in such a fashion where you're going to go, well, I'm done with this whole thing, then there's still a judgment. There's still a comparison, good, bad, right, wrong. That's bad you, and now you have to look at it good, or that you have a judgment about whatever the experience is. That actually creates a rigidity, and it's very effortful to clear that out. Very effortful. But when you get to that level of acknowledgement, appreciation, and loving it, then it takes very little effort because it starts to dissolve the more focus on loving whatever's there. So that dissolves, and as that dissolves, it kind of opens up the other part of you, the other part of you that is an appreciation, the other part of you that is you unfolding and unpacking yourself. So I was saying something, I forgot. Go ahead. You were going to say something?
Was asking you to give an example, such as weight loss in regards to.
Okay. Well, say weight loss. All right. Many of us have adopted the idea that a certain weight is acceptable, what's not acceptable, and so forth. And somehow, at the same time, we have an issue with our appearance. We have an issue with the weight. We have an issue with what that represents and how some people would look at you and so forth, or how you even feel in the body. And it applies to the same thing, is that to recognize, acknowledge that you are in that form or that shape right now. Doesn't matter how it got there, whatever that was. Say, okay, I accept you as you are. So you have an appreciation for that experience, the experience of having excess weight, if you want to call it that. You accept the experience. You love the experience. And then at that point, you can now see, all right, am I done with the experience? Do I continue to play this or not? With no judgment, with a great appreciation one way or another. Not saying that one is going to be better than the other. Not saying that this is going to be the way it needs to go. None of that is brought into the equation. When you do that, and then you're saying, okay, now I choose to look at what patterns or whatever I have that supports the weight. But you have to understand there's also a thing we have to look at, and this is why, when I talk about writing things down and laying it out, it's very beneficial for you to look at and say, okay, what's my story? What does the weight do for me? Because there is both sides. One, you may have a judgment from it, but the other part may provide you something very different. It may shield you from, say, getting into a relationship, or shield you from, expecting to do certain things, or shield you from, taking an active role, or whatever it may be. So you need to look at it and say, okay, what's my story around that? You have to list your benefits to it. What am I benefiting it from? What do I see? If I took that out of the equation, uh, and unplug these benefits. I'm okay with that. Because when you realize that in one way or another, it makes it easier for that to shift. So you're going into the core stories, programs, belief systems, and so forth. And being that I've worked with many people, there have been many, many storylines attached to or definitions and labels around maintaining the weight to a certain degree. Now, of course, yes, we can make a choice to come into a physicality and maintain weight for a particular experience, but you always have the option to shift that. And it's not about making it very difficult. When you acknowledge it, you have no judgment for it, you have appreciation for it, you have love for it, and you now look at the two storylines, looking at what do I benefit and don't, and you can wrap those up because it's no longer necessary or the benefits are not necessary, and the downside has no judgment attached to it or anything of that nature. Then you make the choice. How do I choose to move forward from here? Yes, I would like to have a lighter body. I would like to have a body that is much more flexible and this and that. And then you say, okay, what does it take? So communicate with the body, communicate with any part of you that says, okay, what would sustain you with what you need to allow you to go into that natural rhythm? Because naturally, for pretty well all of us, unless we've gotten some programs involved, to run a very lean, I would say lean, but a body that actually, in one way or another, is very light. Now, we may have made a choice to kind of lock that in, to have a particular experience, but moving forward, you can always make a new choice. And the choice is, does it still benefit me? Do I still need to play with this? Because, your body and anything else that you do in your life, all of it creates a certain experience. All of it supports you in one way or another. You cannot turn around and say, well, this supports me and that doesn't support me. Because if it didn't support you in one way or another, you wouldn't have brought it into your reality, or you do not experience it. And somebody could turn around and say, well, how about illness? And how about, I didn't want to come here in a big body. But the thing is, you did make that choice. You have the freedom to change it. But at that time, whenever that choice was made, up to even this point in time, you have the freedom to kind of shift it. At the same time, you may want to look at how you feel emotionally, because that plays a big role. You want to look at the emotions involved in all of that, the emotions of making comfort by consuming certain foods, what people call comfort foods, or the fact of feeling more comfortable when you have that. You can be in both polarities. You can feel comfortable in one way and then uncomfortable in another way. So it's kind of a choice that you make. And so it's really about looking at that, because you can change any part of it moving forward. Okay? All right. So, but is that so? So really, we're going back to this. Oops. Okay. Is it so that things have to be under effort and so forth? Oops. Push the wrong button here. There we go. But is it so? Nothing is stagnant. Nothing is so. You're the only one that decides, is this so or not? And you'll notice, if you say it is, it will change, because you are changing. What was important for you at one time is no longer important to you now, will shift. So you're not stuck. So it may have been interesting, maybe very beneficial in one way or another, to do things the hard way, to get lost in the game, to be driven by stories, programs, beliefs, but also by others, pleasing others, adopting other people's patterns or way of life or anything of that nature. So you will notice that, all of that has served to some degree and along the way. But now, because things are changing, you're changing, really. No change happens without you changing. With the changes, those are no longer necessary. So then nothing is rigid. So what used to be fun, to be effortful, through struggle, through polarity, through right, wrong, good, bad, who's doing what, who's not doing what, having a lot of different stories and excuses and so forth for one pattern over another, starts to shift within you, because it no longer creates any value to any longer. And of course, you start to change every part of it. we may have also adopted the idea that many external processes are required to change reality. Yeah, we may have adopted the idea that a lot of things have to change around our world to make our world more matching to us, including specific role players taking the lead and redirecting it. How many times have we heard the savior method or savior, what do they call it? Savior mode? Uh, I can't think of the word now. It was in my head real quickly. Okay, having a savior or having certain leaders go into place so that they can play a particular role so that our world will change. You know, have no longer the old dictators, bring some new ones, ones that are have some consciousness, the ones that are going to change our world. But the thing is, our world only changes as we change. Even the role players are only supporting us until they no longer. Now, if they can't play that role, they'll step down or leave or whatever it is, and or they just shift in themselves. But really, we're the ones that are dictating it. So when we're looking at it, you know, having a dependency for specific role players to take on a leader to direct, you know, this whole thing that you know, we have to have the right people in power. We got to vote the right people. We got to get rid of all those, you know, dark hats or bad people or whatever, you know, stories we've gone. That's to do it back to the effortful way. That's the way where you know, you have to have others in place. And the same thing, people have given power to some deities coming in to save us, deities to step in and make everything right, deities to get rid of all those bad people or whatever you know, want to call it, or bad role players or anything of that nature, or the fact that in some way or another that, you know, we have to have our brother sister souls in these fancy ships and whatever else with high advanced technology to come in to save us. Get rid of all the torture and everything else that's going on. They get rid of all those nasties or whatever it is. So that's again going right back to the whole idea that we have to have specific role players, and that can be, like I said, leaderships or whatever else, but also specific role players being brothers sisters coming in from other realms and dimensions, or coming in from other planets with some form of technology. So we may have adopted that external processes are required, okay, to change our reality. But now you are realizing more and more it's not about that. It's about you. It's about all of us. But it starts with us, and that's the thing. I know some people say, well, you know, if it's just with me, how is it going to change? Realizing how powerful you are is something phenomenal at this point in time, because you are phenomenal. You have a lot of capacities and power within you. You're capable of amazing, because you are sourceness itself. You are a creator yourself. You are your own creation, observer creation. You are the reality overlay creators. You're shaping every facet of you. Now, of course, we've slowed down the process, but we're speeding up the process where everything is reflective to our true state. All right. However, the fact is we are fully capable. I know many people do not realize how capable, how powerful we are. Okay? And that's okay. That was kind of what we wanted to. We wanted to disconnect with our capacities, disconnect with our knowing who we truly are, disconnect with the fact that there's much more than what role that we have been playing. So, yeah, we you know, the capability has been kind of skewed in such a powerful way, thinking that we are not capable. And we're not only that, we're subject to the collective, we're subject to everything else that's around us. Well, that all of it is playing a role, but you are fully capable. And we are the ones that are changing and reshaping reality. This is something that we seem to kind of keep putting him on the back burner, thinking that the reality would change by others, or change by systems, change by organizations, change by, you know, some deity saying, this is the way it needs to be or something of that nature. But the thing is, the changes, the reshaping, we are the ones that are changing and reshaping reality all the time. It's not been outside of us. Like I was saying in the beginning, that we may have been conditioned and programmed to believe something, and then through those beliefs, through those adoptions, through those patterns, we have created the reality that we're claiming to have an issue with. Because when we really look at it, say, well, okay, now we have an issue with this, but is it really the case? The issue is what? It's us, because we are changing it. Okay. Of course, we can do it the hard, slow way or the easy way from within. The hard way is, trying to change the world. Or we can do it the easy way, where we change the world within us and the world outside of us. Of course, we may want to participate in some of the changes. But if you haven't shifted that reality within yourself, that accessing higher consciousness, it doesn't matter projecting any form of consciousness if you're not living it, breathing it, feeling it, and emanating it. So you could say, well, I'm going to start changing what's on the screen, what's in the movie, what's in the game, and I'll get to me later. It doesn't work that way. You get to you, and then at the same time, or shortly after, you can now project something very different. And because you're projecting something different, your energy is different, your access point is different, so that you will be even more impactful to shift what you see in the screen, what you see in the game, what you see in the movie. So the thing is, when you go from within and you're rock solid, then you're coming with blazing guns of sort. I'm just using this as an example, as a play. But you're coming in at full force rather than trying to insist a change. You're coming in with already a change within you. So the change actually now comes with a lot more force, but at the same force meaning creator force, but at the same time, with that force, you already carry the energies which will stimulate other role players so that they can step back and not support the old ways as before. So that changes too. We can continue to shape our reality based on the movie and the role players around us, or use our own sources. As I was saying earlier, we've all adopted the idea that, hey, we got to look at what the players are saying, doing, and at the same time based on what we see. This is what we have. We got to make do with it. You probably heard that. You probably even said it yourself. We all have, to some degree or another, have said we have to make do. We have to somehow suck it up, or whatever we want to call it. This is the game. Yeah, I picked this family. Yes, I picked this community. Yes, I can move around, but I'm still in the same world. I am still in the same male, female physicality or anything in between. And look at it that way and say, well, okay, that's my lot in life. That is my, this is where I landed. Yeah, we all played that. We all played that. But we're coming to what? Another level of realization that we, as much as we came into that, none of that needs to direct us or confine us in any way, shape, or form as it did before, because you are no longer in that game plan, because you've changed it. So what ends up happening, you use your own source. You now tap into the world within you. How does the world feel, look? Use the dream state. Use whatever is necessary and beneficial for you to be able to access that world within you. You already know your natural state. You already know what the world is designed in its true form to display, to create the environment for you. By connecting with that, by doing that, then not only are you going to be what people call on purpose, on track wherever you're on, because that's always going to continue to expand and unpack, but you already start to give that example, even though that you may not even say a word, but you're already going into the movie and making changes in the movie, and then you may be able to be more active in the movie if you want to do so. So the point is that you can also go into the state where you may share with others, but you're sharing it from already an experiential component of yourself, and where you already have set the stage on the back end of it by living it, feeling it, and experiencing it through you first. And that's the key part of it. So, as much as it may seem on the surface that we have to fight and struggle to make things happen and for changes to take place, there is a more powerful way to do it. And that is going to the source point within you, the source of creation, the source of this experience, the source that is projecting and playing out the reality that you're seeing around you within yours and all the multiple layers accordingly. So that's the thing here, is there is a more powerful way, and that's what we're going to play with, and we're going to realize within ourselves that we're now, instead of doing it the hard way, like what we said, we have to fight our rights. We have to struggle with what's already there. That in some way or another, that unless we do that, unless we fight, unless we make things right, that things won't change. We'll make what, it's not even making right within yourself. It's basically accessing what you have already within you, and then you're going into the source point. So you're now going into the projector and making changes in the projector, so you're actually bringing or removing the layers of what was put in front of what the projector is already projecting, and see that projecting much more clearly. So that's how it works. So we may have on the surface felt that, you know, we still have to fight, and there are a lot of people putting a lot of energy fighting the system, fighting role players, fighting all of that. I'm not saying you're not going to take a stand and make it known, because a lot of people learn from that, but it starts with you using the most powerful source point within yourself, because then you're not going in fighting, you're going in a capacity to advance and change things from a key component. It's no longer about going in as polarity. It's no longer going in and accentuating low vibrations. You're basically expressing higher vibrations from that point, rather than, using the same lower vibrations that we've used in the past. So we no longer need to entertain the idea that we are powerless. And all of us have adopted the idea, some really deep, some a little less deep, and some just on the surface, that we're powerless. We have no say. We cannot shape our reality. We have no choices. We have no free will. We have no sovereignty. We're not creators. We're not our own creation. We're just humans. And we've been handed this down. We got to make the best of it, put our time in, and then we leave, or whatever we've adopted. So we've taken all of that, and we're powerless. And now we got to pray. Now we got to, access some PowerPoint of some sort externally, that we now we're powerless to systems, to authority groups, which are all fictional anyways, to various structures and corporations, or various leadership roles that others have taken in different industries and different ways of life, and saying, well, that's what we have to depend on, because we're powerless. And not only are we powerless, we are reliant, we are dependent on the outer circumstances to create our world, and have depended on others and on the system, like I was just saying right now. So we've all, created a dependency on others and systems. But the thing is, you're independent. And you're the one that shapes the systems. You're the one that instructs others what role to play. Now, if they choose to be playing something different and you're very different than yours, then they go play somewhere else. They're not just going to be playing with you because they won't play with you. They'll go play somewhere else, play something different. That's what changes. So at this point, when we're looking at it, we are letting go of this powerless. We don't have to entertain it anymore. We don't have to feel that something outside of us has to do it, or some deity has to do it, or some brother, sister souls and fancy technologies and different physicalities have to do it for us. We don't have to entertain that anymore because it's not true. Never has been. But we adopted it. We played with it. Had a blast with it, didn't we? What do you think, Kimberly? Kimberly thinks so. Perfect. Time to practice and bring back online our true capabilities and redesign our reality to match the new us and world. So like I said, you have the new world already within you. Now, if you've chosen to play in organic 3D or organic 5D, you have those worlds and to be unpacked within you. And there's no one better than the other. There's different stages, and you can switch from one to the other. So, matching the new you, because you are evolving, you're adapting and expanding and becoming more aware. And as much as whatever you chose to agree and accept as one point or another, there's a new you coming up, and many of us already feel it within ourselves, that newness within us, realizing that we're not that old version anymore. That old version was great. It served. This is the thing. As we change anything in our lives, we change ourselves. We change our focus point, our energy point, our level of awareness points. Those are all part and parcel that shifts and upgrades any component of whatever we're experiencing. And the world is waiting for us in a way. It's already aiding us, working with us, but we are the world saying, come on, step it up, let's bring this to a whole nother level. And so it's time to practice to bring back yourself online with those capabilities. How do you do that? You use some powerful tools. These tools are your imagination, your dream state, going into start to see the world that feels most natural. And you will notice that the ego might like to jump in there and kind of create something for you as what we call manifesting or whatever it is from what already exists or what others may have. It's about going outside of all of that. You know, the dreamer that a lot of people may have heard in your life at some point, especially if you're a young person, because then what happens, we get so conditioned, so bogged down by whatever was playing out, we stop dreaming, we stop imagining. And if we imagine, we have such levels of doubt that we can't even experience it. So it's like, oh, like let me go visit the oasis temporarily in my vision, but then say, oh, that's not real. I can't bring that into my life. So the point is going in and actually using that dream state, using your reality. And when I say dream state, imagine, dream what the world looks like coming from within. What you feel is the world that you came here to play with because you're unpacking it through you. How that feels, how you interact, where you put your focus, what gifts you share, what part of your role in the whole collective, whatever it is, you can just use it. And those dreams will expand. Those dreams will unpack, more and more of it. And by doing that dream state, you're actually shaping reality. You're actually not only that, but you're creating new levels of reality. And the reason I use creating is because we are constantly expanding. We're constantly growing. Our essence is expanding. So what we do is actually create something from those levels of expansion. Where it's not like we're stagnant and it's like, okay, we're just going to dream and bring it forth. Even like I said, the dreams will expand. Every part of you will expand. So it's time to practice. And when I say practice, what do? You take the time every day. In the morning, or and or night, to kind of spend a little bit of time to envision, to see yourself where you feel most natural, where you feel yourself at home of sorts while on the playground. I'm not saying you're seeing yourself at home somewhere else, you're seeing yourself at home in this playground, but also seeing how that feels, because many of you have ideas of how it looks like. Now, some of you may say, okay, living in community. Well, that's great, but what are we focusing on the community that, we have to do it the hard way, or create a community that's very supportive, but a community that actually does not have the same requirements as the old ideas of what community is, or the fact that we have to live off the land. Yeah, you will connect more, and that can be in your makeup, and that might be a transitional component of it, but it's not a reliance of sorts. So you're going into really seeing what feels most natural, and do not feel that you're dreaming at this point in time, unless you feel tossed around, that you can dream incorrectly, because you're going to dream what you're able to access. But every time you practice it, the more that you spend time with it, you'll see it opens up even further and unpacks even further. Okay. Miss Kimberly, we're all right. So it's a call for us to use our superpowers as the designer of this playground and reality. I don't know. I don't think we're ready to use our superpowers. What do you think? Go ahead. You're going to say something. You're going to ask something.
I'm
You're
going to
gonna throw
say
your
we are
5 cents in it.
so very ready to use our superpowers.
All right.
Yes, indeed.
Okay. Good. Do you want to show everybody how to use their superpowers?
No, you go ahead.
Have you gotten on our website the capes? Let's say
Yeah.
superhuman,
Superhuman.
superhuman
Yes,
superpower.
maybe we should make some.
All right. So the call is for us to use our superpowers, to use our innate abilities, our expanded innate abilities, because our abilities are always expanding. But we call it the superpowers because it seems more super of sorts based on what we've been playing up to this point in time. Go ahead.
Someone's just asking how long before we ascend I want to use my superpowers.
Well, you're ascending every day, every moment, and how far do you ascend is up to you, depending on how quickly you let go of your old world and embrace the new world, embrace the new you. Really, that's what it is. You're basically going from the state which was very unnatural, but was part of an experience, to going into more of your natural state. So your superpowers, there are people using bits and pieces of that superpower more and more. And, again, we don't want to confuse superpowers as, able to leap tall buildings. I mean, you can do whatever you want, but I'm just saying, or the fact that you can, have bullets bouncing off you or something like that, or sometimes what do we say? Superpowers is the capacity where we're looking at our lives, and we have nothing that can shift us one way or another. That's all part and parcel of it, but that's not the thing. The superpower is basically realizing that you are the source creator on this playground with your reality and so forth. You were going to say something? No? Okay.
It.
You're it. Yeah, exactly. Are you sure there's no other it's outside? Just you. Okay, cool. If Kimberly with her superpowers have said that, then it's got to be. Okay. So, stepping into the designer of this playground reality, we've already are doing that, but we're bringing it to the natural state, to that powerful state. So it's no longer, using our capacities to create the old. You're creating brand new. See, this whole idea that we are moving into a new world, the new world is there for us to shape, and it's already, we all carry a piece of it within ourselves, and it's a matter of unpacking it. This new world is really an upgraded version of the pure, true design of what we saw Gaia, a playground called Earth, and the human experiencer, the human avatar, in its all levels of capacities and capabilities to experience itself on this playground. We started off in our natural state, and then we went into an unnatural state for a long period of time to have whatever particular experience. And yeah, maybe certain role players may have stepped in and played a particular role in it, but we've all complied or agreed to bring that in as something unique, an experiment of whatever. Let's see what we can do with this and so forth. And yeah, did we screw up? Absolutely not. Did we have very enriching experiences? Absolutely. Absolutely, in the sense where we've experienced the most limited version of ourselves, the most unconscious parts of ourselves. I'm not saying everybody, because some people already came in pretty aware, and some have already triggered a lot of that level of awareness, so you're kind of seeing the world very differently. But at the same time, we wanted to see how unconscious, or what people can call us asleep, or whatever it is, not knowing yourself as the creator, your own creation, observer creation, but also as source, and that the fact that you are the designer of everything. And at the same time, also losing in touch with ourselves, where we see everything with fluidity, naturalness, no attachments, no definitions, no storylines, so definitions and labels and so forth, or creating where emotions actually take over your experience, where emotions actually override you to the point where you actually can't see any part of yourself within the experience. That was not our natural design right from day one, but by reinforcing that and agreeing to play that, we got to experience it. And wow, quite an enrichment that we've had accordingly. So, it is that that we've experienced it. So now we're kind of reversing it, but we're not going back to the original. To a certain degree, original, yes, as the basic fundamentals, but it's totally upgraded, because not only us coming here is upgraded, Gaia is upgraded, the solar system is upgraded, the galaxy is upgraded, the universe is upgraded. So of course it's not going to be the same. And then all of our genetic encodements and so forth, as much as we've kind of created such chaotic functionality within it, have once brought back online, which is starting to do that, or has been starting for a while, and it will upgrade itself so that the genetics will override any of the other stuff that's been thrown in and applied as part of their experience. Okay, that's it. That's all she wrote. Was there any relating questions, or I'm just going to move on to the next part? If they're related to this, yeah, absolutely.
Okay, the first one. I'm just gonna write down the time.
Okay.
Okay. If I'm making connections with other dimensional selves, some I see as me, the higher I see as another being, but can't seem to bridge to affect the screen. Or am I being impatient in this process?
Well, part of it is impatience, but the thing is, if you're connecting with other beings and so forth, what the other beings do, they're not the end all of whatever. They're just basically stimulating more of a memory of yourself, but it's really about you being you in your most truest state, and that's the thing. So if you're going to interact with any other beings, they will share what they need to share, but it's really you that is actually the one that's changing it. Now, we also you need to look at why you want to change it. Because if you have a judgment around it, or you have a strong polarity around it, or fear around it, or something of that nature, then it becomes way more difficult to shift anything. But when we're in full acknowledgement of the screen or reality or whatever you're looking at this point in time, and go into an appreciation. When I'm talking about appreciation, appreciate what is provided for you, what is provided. And the thing is, what is provided for you needs to be judgment free, meaning that you're not going to see even what looked like traumatic, because when you see it from non-judgmental and non-categorizing or labeling, then it won't be, how can I say, what's the word? Can't think of the word. But it will no longer be an issue where you're going to put a judgment to whatever you're seeing. So when you're looking at the appreciation, you're appreciating for the experience rather than what you define the experience to be. Because all of us, trauma and other things, it's just because we've labeled it as trauma. We have created a lot of emotional charges around that. And then we've locked it into our bodies. We have locked it into our subconscious mind. And the ego loves to use all parts of it to kind of replicate it, bring it up to the surface over and over again. But the thing is, the ego doesn't have a good grip on the whole idea. When you start to acknowledge it, appreciate it, and send love to it, the ego's going, I don't know what to do with this, because it doesn't work in that state of functionality. So when you're looking at shifting any part of your reality, is to see the perfection of whatever your reality, whatever you're playing out with, and then you have no judgment about it, and then it starts to shift a lot easier the more you connect with yourself. Go ahead.
Next question. So it's not about not creating with the V people, is not about excluding them from our reality. Can you address this, please?
Yeah, well, you have to understand, everybody's part of the playground. And whoever you feel aligned with, you will possibly come together and create together using the dream state. But the point is, really, when you are going into the dream state, your own imagination, okay, your creative facet, you see the world where it is. It doesn't matter who's playing what or anything of that nature. They shift accordingly to match what you see coming from within. So you're not trying to shape it and say who's got V, who's not got V. You're not going to put that into the equation. You are now creating, because even the ones that have gotten the V and they go and play a very polarized role, if that's the choice, that doesn't mean all of them will do that, because they're still of service in one way or another, regardless. But at the same time, you're not going to apply that and the definition around it. Because remember, we're being conditioned what the V really represents and what it should do or shouldn't do or whatever it is. It's still a tool. I mean, is it necessary to put it into your body? I would say absolutely not, because at this point in time. But however, there are people that felt because they bought into whatever narrative and so forth. But they're still playing a role. So the thing is, use your own imagination regardless of who's involved or not involved. You're not going to see it as the ones that are advancing, the ones that are less advanced. I mean, even the whole idea with extras and so forth that I've talked about and others have talked about, and PCMs and whatever else, I don't know what the label they apply to as MPCs or whatever that certain people would like to use. But they are still part of the movie. You don't have to include them, but when you're designing the movie within you, when you're designing that reality within you, they're going to participate, but they're going to also participate in the fashion that matches your reality. And now if they're not there to play in your reality, they go play in somebody else's reality, they won't be in your reality. You don't have to get all caught up in the details of that. You're just accessing your own reality, your own world. And there are people, even if you're not sitting next to each other or doing something together, there are people all over the world that are already exercising more than that, and it's really expediting. And that's going to be the most impactful part of making such a powerful change, is when we are actively involved in being ourselves and seeing that movie, because then the pieces start to change. So the main collective reality starts to break down. And look at it this way. Look at the chaos and breakdown that's happening right now. Okay, things have become very unstable. Even the role players have become unstable. They're flip flopping, they're doing all types of things. There's two parts to that. One part, yes, to kind of make it so apparent that you need to drop this idea that we have to depend on them or that they're the only ones that can change our reality. They're the only ones that can fix the system or something, to seeing that they're not there to do so, so that you hand that off, let it go, and then you are now taking an active role within yourself. So that's that's the first part. The second part, you're looking at it, it's basically showing that all these energies and you and all the others around the world that are shifting their reality, they're creating blips in the projected collective reality, because that's breaking down. So people are playing various roles within it, and the destabilizing, eventually dissolving, and then new systems come into play. But as you focus on you, unpacking you through all of that, it will expedite the whole process. Go ahead.
Have some of us been aware of this game? When I was very young, till 6 years old, I knew I could fly and that matter could be transformed. But these things were against the rules.
Hmm. Yes, absolutely. We all have very powerful gifts within ourselves that, we bought in, adopted the idea, which was fine. It needed to be that way, so don't feel bad for it. That, yeah, flying is not acceptable because the collective doesn't understand that. Yeah, maybe the first 5,000 years when we were in more of our natural state, the flying was very natural. You're a multidimensional component of you that has been on other planets that can fly. Very easily recognizes that's pretty natural or whatever it is. So you can fly, you can teleport, you can telepathically communicate, you can shapeshift, you can do all types of things. You can play whatever role. Um, we've all done that. Okay, and I've gone through it personally myself. Had to turn off a lot of the different things because not only the fact that because it was not acceptable or accepted, it also created unnecessary attention when it wasn't time to do so. So right now may still be the same. You may be able to use some of the more subtle stuff, but the other parts of it will come into play more and more when it becomes more of a, I don't know if you like the word norm, but it becomes much more, what's the word? Not normal, but accepted as a part of us or whatever it is. But there's so much more we can do that does not always have to reflect in that part yet, okay? Because there's other parts of how we shape our reality and so forth that is more instrumental right now to kind of change the whole collective reality, where all of that no longer becomes an issue, and a a focus away from what really we have to focus on, and that is basically unpacking ourselves within ourselves. Yeah.
And I think you answered this at a previous one. What's the best way to tap into higher self?
Yeah, just keep quiet, sit down, and higher self, let's talk. Well, yeah, I've talked about it in other episodes for sure, and we have at this point in time. So, really, we're always connected to our higher self. We always have that connection. The higher self is not polarized. It's not super loud either. It's not dominant in a way. Now it can nudge and create whatever scenarios. But the ego is very insistent, very right in your face, and it will swing back and forth. We'll use emotions, we'll use polarity, we'll use all types of things, and specifically label stories and so forth. The ego is going to do that. So what you want to do is that when you do meditate, you're basically going to quieten yourself by focusing on, the breath and going in within, or getting into that quiet state. Then you can you hear it, feel it, receive the thought forms, whatever form that you are, kind of turned yourself to be able to receive in that form. that information. Sometimes you could just be using your imagination, and then certain levels of clarity, that's your higher self. So some of the tools I've given, if if you're lost in the game, you're lost in that intensity of that game, then what you can do is you know yes, call in your multidimensional soul. Say, multidimensional soul, fully embody, and allow it to come in. You can feel it or whatever you want to feel, where you can sense that it's in there, and just say, okay, fully embody. Activate the highest level of home frequency, which is the frequency that is gained from all incarnations, from all different dimensions, that can be, harnessed and used in your particular physical form, because there are ranges that you cannot access at this point in time, because some of those frequencies support a higher density, which cannot be reflective here in these physicalities, because they're still in third and fourth, and going into fifth and sixth is not going to be so conducive. Certain other frequencies that are gained through different experiences. So bringing really the maximum, so highest home frequency to be emanated, then you can ask your source essence to say, source essence, activate the highest version of yourself, the highest source essence within me. I fully embody pure love and emanate pure love through all aspects of myself. And then also your human entity, come online fully and completely, share your highest state of being. And you can also ask your innateness of your body, which is connected with Gaia, all sentient beings, and all of its journey through every and all incarnation. And once you've just kind of walked through that process, then just be quiet, focus on the breathing, just relax, and you'll be able to connect with yourself. Now, the more you practice that, you'll notice that you can start doing it much easier, and so many of you already do it. You don't have to go into full meditation if you're in a quiet state and you're doing whatever you're doing, and you're just allowing those pure intuitive knowingness and information coming through. Now, one of the things is it's best to write things down after you've done that, or in the middle of it, especially if you're not in an altered state. And that way you can remind yourself, so you don't have to keep asking the same questions or keep, waiting to receive the same confirmation, because the ego is going to always try to want you to have many confirmation, which kind of throws you off down a certain interesting path. And then we kind of lose our access point. Okay?
I was just going to say, Adelia pointed out that your process in episode 89 was really good for higher self connection.
Yes, perfect. Thank you.
Just repeat that.
Yeah,
There's
many
lots
times.
of great processes. I think that's
Absolutely.
one of them.
Absolutely. So we don't have to do anything today, so let's go for coffee.
Plus, we're doing another one today.
Yes. We're doing something different today, so I will fill you in on that one shortly. So we're going to take about a 2-minute break while you guys make yourself comfortable. If you have headsets, that's great. If you don't have headsets, just make sure that you're in a place where you're quiet, where does not require attention. So if you're driving or doing anything that's requiring your attention, do not engage in the same way. Do it later, but you can still be part of it while you're doing whatever you're doing, but without closing your eyes, without going into that state where you disconnect from your reality, where you don't want to create an experience that would be less than favorable at this point in time for you. So in saying that, just make yourself comfortable and get yourself prepared, and we'll be back. I'm just going to change mics and scenery, and then be back with you. So I'm going to shift that. So basically, there we go. So if you have the opportunity, close your eyes and just be kind of relaxing. And as you're getting more and more relaxed, I'm going to set the stage on what we are doing. So this process is about connecting with yourself and going to the source point. That means you're accessing you to shift your reality. So you're going into the world within you. So we're going to access the point that is the most powerful state. Instead of doing the external part, which will only be secondary, we're going in with the primary part, which is at this point in time where we actually go into the movie and make the changes. And the movie is you. We're going to use your imagination, your creativity, to be able to access that part. You will repeat this process as often as you need to so that you become more accustomed to it, and then you can do it on your own without listening to this. This is provided, of course, as a separate separate video, and also the full video for the episode. And you will also be given a link in the description of the separate video where you can download just the audio in a higher quality so that you can use it as a tool for yourself. So the purpose here is to be able to go into your imagination, to use your creativity to either shift something that you are experiencing, or to be able to see and unpack the world that you already feel within yourself. Now, we're doing it together so that we are creating a powerful, united support mechanism for all of us. But actually, you're the only one doing it. But at the same time, we're all doing it together, so that anytime you are doing it by yourself, and if you use, especially if you use the recording, you're now combining, but the combination and connection, not through the fact that there's a reliance to it, but supportive. So that means facets of you will support you, and you, as you are supporting facet of yourself. So it becomes a very powerful tool for yourself at this time. The reason we're doing this tool is because we are at the next level of readiness to be able to exercise and use this as part of our experience, and to really step things up in a powerful way by going right into the source code. Okay? So at this time, you make sure your eyes are closed if you can do so. And we're going to put our attention on the breath, and we're going to focus on the breath and being fully present with the breath, but also fully present with the flow of the breath. And what do I mean by the flow of the breath? Feeling the full sensation that you experience as you take a breath in, feeling all the movement of air and the expansion of your lungs. And as you exhale, again, the movement of air and the contraction of your lungs. By following this beautiful rhythm, you're going deeper and deeper, feeling more and more relaxed. As you become more relaxed, you go more into your natural state. Your natural state is fluid and relaxed, playful and excited and adventurous, while being in a beautiful state of ease. It's not about any form of resistance or struggle, and it is not about effort. It's just basically at ease. So as you continue to breathe in and out, going deeper and deeper each time you exhale, feeling more and more relaxed. As you exhale, should you feel any tension, any tightness, or any reaction, just breathe it out gently. And just allow yourself to just let it flow. And whatever we breathe out goes into the field, and the field automatically transmutes it to pure source essence. The field is the playground. The field is what holds everything in place, that creates the playground, the base, and all that is necessary and beneficial to create multiple realities and expressions of self. As you continue to go deeper and deeper, feeling more and more relaxed, we now instruct the mind, the ego mind, the ego story. I thank you. I appreciate you. I love you for everything that you've provided. I now choose to relieve you of your responsibility. This process that we are going through does not involve you. Thank you, and step aside. I love you, but I set you free. And as you continue to go deeper and deeper, feeling more and more relaxed, we open up the channel to connect with you much more clearly. The channel of you, the sourceness of you, the actual part that governs your avatar, your holographic expression, what we call the human experience, what we call reality. Connecting with that, connecting with its infinite capacities, infinite beingness, where it never stops existing but always constantly expands and merges. That is you. So to facilitate at this time, we ask our multidimensional soul to fully embody, to step into our body fully embodied, to be fully present in all aspects of this avatar holographic expression, to bring its multidimensional experience, its consciousness, and its flexibility into this experience right now. We now ask our multidimensional soul to activate the highest level of home frequency. This is the frequency that has been established through all incarnations, through all adventures and journey, through different levels of densities and levels of consciousness and all associated experiences. To the degree, to the intensity that your body can currently harness and maintain at this time. Expanding your accessibility. As we are source, we are the spirit of source, which is source in creation, source in experience, source in playfulness. To activate the highest source essence available right now that can be harnessed within your body in the state that it's in and continuously increasing to advance your state. And now to use the most powerful tool that we have, our essence, which we call pure love, pure creation, pure love. Love that is one, and one that is expressing in multitudes, where it has no polarity, where it accesses its sourceness to the highest state of existence. We embody pure love, emanate pure love, interact with pure love, project realities in pure love. we ask our human entity to bring forth the highest version of the human consciousness, the human experience, with all of its skill sets, all of its gifts, all of its offerings, to bring all of it forth right now. Which may include memories from its origins, memories in different new expanded levels that have been achieved and may not be utilizing now, but bringing it forth again. To fully express it, fully embody it, and fully align with all facets. We now also ask our innate consciousness of our body, the highest aspect of the human expression in form, the highest expression as Gaia, as sentient beings, all of it combined, and all the levels of consciousness it has access to for all incarnations, all expressions, for billions of years, as a base for different retooled playgrounds to bring forth what is most advantageous, the most aligned at this time. We now unify all aspects, creating an overall consciousness, an overall frequency emanating a specific vibration. That not only the frequency encodes the collective and all layers of reality, the vibration is pinnacle in reshaping reality. And all playmates that are joining in together and are part and parcel of our playground and reality at any point in time. Upgrading our physicality, upgrading our processing capacities within ourselves. So now, let's connect with that world within us. Feel it from within. Let's open up your mind to be able to access this world. See this world in you coming out as a dream, as a movie within ourselves. And to see it with our eyes closed, to see it in the external being experienced. See a world that may reflect harmony, a world of playfulness, a world of adventure, a world where we all play together, we share with one another, we love and experience love to a higher dimension of ourselves, where we see ourselves as beautiful equals, to see ourselves as beautiful participants of this playground. See yourself fully and completely in that world, bypassing and overriding any other illusionary world that we have given power to it in the past. This world is pure. This world is the most advanced world within you. This world is free, as you are free. You are free to experience it any which way. Nothing impedes you, nothing limits you in any way. You express and experience love to a dimension that has never been achieved before. Experience oneness, that unification with one another while being unique expressions. Seeing and feeling and imagining and dreaming the excitement within you. There's no right, no wrong, no good, no victimizer, no victim. None of that exists. All that exists is you. All that exists is neutrality, pureness, creation in action, sourceness in action. Accessing organic third and organic fifth and beyond consciousness and plugging it into your playground, in your reality. Struggle free, survival free, fearless, free of fear. Fear, lack do not exist in this world of yours. This world shapes and supports you to be the highest expression you are. Your imagination is limitless. You see the beauty of all creation. You see the ease of transforming any older creation and unpacking a new creation, a new playground, new experience, a new you that is emanating through you. It is you. It is never limited in any way, shape, or form. It's not outside of you. It is you in its purest form. We see the old reality around us as a tool that has served us and all the other playmates, which are versions of ourselves, playing. We also see that it is less of service and ready to transform, ready to dissolve as we apply a new reality. We see the perfection, the beauty, and the love we have for the old reality. We see the accentuation of polarity and its beauty and its powerful creation as it starts to transmute and transform now. We govern and shape the transformation stage by stage, speeding up more and more as we unpack ourselves, the world within ourselves. Each one of us carries a piece of that puzzle that makes up this new world. Each one of us has a very specific frequency, level of consciousness, and emanates a certain vibration. We free ourselves from those limited versions of ourselves with great love and appreciation for its service. So let's spend a couple of minutes or so seeing yourself in this world, feeling yourself if you can. See it as a vision, feel it as a feeling, even if it's just a thought form, if it's a sound, if it's just a holistic feeling from your heart. Just be with it right now. Experience it within you right now. Be present. Allow yourself to go even deeper into the experience, feeling it, breathing it. Feel that love within you. In this world that you're seeing within you, this reality also can be pain-free, illness-free, with lots of vibrancy, playfulness, excitement. Completely effortless. Gently pay attention to how the planet, Gaia, Earth, whatever we want to call it, feels to you. Be open for the embrace that it's offering, if you so feel that. The love and appreciation that it shares with you. Feel how it feels to be playing with other aspects of yourself on this playground. How warm, loving it feels. How light and playful. How expansive it feels. All of us allowing ourselves to be ourselves. No imposing of any confines or rules. Everyone is free. Whatever we choose to experience becomes fully available with ease. In your mind's eye, see yourself opening your arms, welcoming all that is, thanking all role players that project polarity, restrictions, acknowledge them with appreciation. Thank you for taking such a difficult role. We've all have taken roles of this nature at one point or another. Thank you for creating these illusionary restrictions, illusionary feeling of being unsafe, being afraid, needing protection, feeling vulnerable, feeling disempowered. Thank you for all of that and all its associated experiences that came along with it. The opportunity to experience limitations and polarity. Thank you for that. Thank you for playing your role, as I thank myself for playing whatever role I've played. Let's see everything that we have around us right now through these new eyes of ours, these inner eyes. See what we see as the beautiful playground, waiting to be reshaped, and us participating in the reshaping with other aspects of ourselves. We remind ourselves we are powerful source spirit creators. We create. We experience creation. We are the creation. We observe creation. We expand in our capacities and create even more elaborate, more profoundly, because that is our natural state. Let's be in the experience of love, pure love within us. Love that does not have polarity. Love that does not have right, wrong, good, bad, dark, light. It's all one, all harmony, all 0 point, all oneness. Love is the very fabric of creation and expansion at the same time. You are amazing. You are just starting to bring forth more of you in its purest form, advanced form, the highest version, to participate and play at levels that have never been achieved before by you and the collective. That is what you are here now doing. And that is you. And so it is. We now put our attention on our breath, being present in our breath, being fully attentive in the movement and flow of the breath, being present with the physical experience of the breath. Observing the rhythm of the breath to remind us the rhythm of our life. The rhythm of the breath is the rhythm of life. It flows with ease. As life flows with ease, gaining, expanding, and creating even more at higher levels. As we are putting our attention on the breath, feeling the sensation of the breath, the movement of the breath, we're going to take the next 5 breaths as a vehicle to take us into our current state, to an awakened state, where we are aware of environment, aware of our reality, through a new set of eyes, through a new set of interpretation and experiencing. So let's use the next 5 breaths to bring us to that state of being fully present in your reality. After the 5th breath, you can gently open your eyes. You will be wide awake, feeling completely relaxed, completely renewed, completely re-energized, completely ready to play as you've never played before. When ready, gently open your eyes. You're wide awake, fully re-energized, and ready to play. Welcome back. What you have done, what you have experienced, not only has advanced to you, it has created a powerful, transformative, advancing ripple effect through all the layers of reality that you are involved in and the collective reality. That experience you had is encoded in the collective that is fully available for all participants in the collective. That's how powerful you are, and that's how capable you are. Yes, you can choose to restrict yourself again, or you can choose to be unrestricted, fully wide open, fully playful. That is yours to choose. Every choice changes as you choose to change it. Nothing is rigid. Every pulse unpacks things. So it is. So, Miss Kimberly, I think we are done for today. We're not going to do any other questions besides what we've addressed. And if there's no hot topic that comes up next time, we'll aim towards doing Q&A, possibly the whole episode. But go ahead.
People may have noticed I put in the chat, because we usually, for anyone who would like to contribute, which we totally appreciate, we usually have the PayPal link. So now we did set up a Patreon link, thanks to Todd who helped me put that together. So that's just for anybody, if they want to do a monthly contribution to support us. They can go on that link, and it just has 3 different tiers: the $10, $20, $30. So none of them are different. They're all the same. It's just that different amounts. We don't know couldn't put it in whatever you want, so we just had to put a number to it. So anyways, that's there, an add-on to to that if you feel guided to do it that way.
Yeah, absolutely. And thank you guys for all the support that we've received to keep us going and so forth.
Mhm.
And it's highly appreciated. Um, Whatever you've provided us support and so forth not only assisted us, but it also creates an opening for yourself for even more flow for yourself. And also, sometimes it's not all monetary, comes in different forms, but that's something that you are opening up within you as you do so. So, but there is no requirements for anything. We provide everything at no charge, so that we don't restrict anything for anybody. But at the same time, we also, um, you know, are here to be of service and put our focus in this work and whatever other work we do on the back end of things to make things flow with all these changes that are going on the planet right now. And your contribution is also helping us to kind of set up a possibility to be able to do a transition of moving with a little bit more ease than normally. But that's I wouldn't say normally. That's probably not the right word to use, but at the same time, in the ways that it's played out before. But
So just thanks everyone. We do appreciate your support and your love and all the wonderful emails we get from everyone. So thank you very much.
yes, and yes, thank you for the feedback that we have received in the work that we're putting out there. I mean, we're tuning in, specifically myself, I'm tuning into my highest aspect of myself, and then I connect with people. And when I say connect, we connect at a super conscious level and be able to see what people need when they need it. So at this time, this is why we never really know what people are requiring at different stages along the way. As you can see, a lot of things have intensified even further. Restrictions have even gone to the next level and so forth. And it became very important for us to do this process today and to cover the topic that we did today on, and to address any questions that came around that topic. So, like I said, we fully intend at some point to be doing, hopefully it's next time, we don't know yet, but to do a full episode of just Q&A, and that way, questions that we have not addressed at this point and that are hot topics for people will address for the next time around. Anything
Okay,
else?
I think that's it. I think we'll wrap it up. We've extended it again
Yes.
over the time. That's okay.
We started with the intention that it was going to be a 1.5 hour max some time ago, and then it would become a 2 hour max, and then
And
of
that's
course,
where it's going to stay. 2 hour max, honey. We're not going to keep extending it.
I know, but we seem to cross the line a few times.
That's okay. Crossing the line once in a while is good.
Absolutely. So again, this will be in its entirely will be available right after the live stream after a short while. I will take the process itself separately, and I will post that as a separate video. I will take the audio on a cleaner version that I recorded on a separate recorder and make that available, a link where you can download the in MP3, which you can load up on a phone. You can any MP3 player really at this point in time, and use the process to enhance what we did together. Each time we enhance it, we enhance all aspects of it. It's just not just you alone. So thank you for being part of all of this today. Thank you for making it all happen. And until next time, go out and play, have a blast, and remember, you're a powerful being that has no limits whatsoever.